And then I'm building a warrior line where I will go back in history, from pre-Greek days as far back as I can. I'm going to have famous quotes from warriors of all ilks, including the terrible ones.
Wow.
Hitler was, a demon on steroids, but he had some pretty good one-liners.
I'll be done.
So
This is why it's the downfall of Austin St. John. The Hitler quotes is what does them in. Now look, this is a list, right? This is your top 10 worst dictators in history. You're like, well, where does Hitler rank? Okay. Well, we'll go through a couple of them. The most brutal dictators in history, right? You're like, well, who is it? Look, this is back in the day. This is Ivan the Terrible. Only 60,000 people. Wasn't that many people. He was torturing people, in Russia. Okay. He was doing that stuff. Then you have Vlad the Impaler. The name speaks for itself. 80,000 people. Now, these are early on dictators. Early on. They're like, oh, we gunning for power early. And then you got, over here.
Oh, look at my African American over here.
This guy.
Are you the greatest?
Maniac right here. You're like, well, who is this guy? Well, this is Idi Amin. Only killed 500,000 people, from 1971 to 1979. No big deal, who can forget about Saddam? Who can forget about Saddam? You know what I'm saying? He had a long run. 250,000 to 1 million people. Died in 2006. They found his ass in a goddamn hole in the desert and shit, buried with all his guns and gold. Or was that Gaddafi? I don't know. All right. Pol Pot. You like, 1.5 to 2 million people. Like, now he's starting to rev this shit up. Now you're starting to rev it up. You're like, Pol Pot was vicious. He's starting to rev it up. Then you have, what's this? Leopold. Early one, 10 million people. Jesus, man. He was ruling, though. This was back in the day. He was trying to take over shit. You want to make some moms, you got to break some eggs. Still, that's a lot of people to fucking kill, though. 10 million? You like, wait. Where does Hitler rank? Number 4, guys. 19 million people. 19 million people. But you know what makes him so different from the rest? We'll get to it in a second. Despite the 19 million people, you have Joseph Stalin. Is ASJ gonna put some Joseph Stalin Russian quotes and sell them at Russia? Can we take some wisdom from this guy who killed 40 million people? 40 million people? What wisdom does Stalin have? He's one of the bad guys. You have, now this is some old back in the day. This is Genghis Khan. This is early back in the day, man. He was just like a monster out in these streets. But his plan, not to justify, he was like, I'm just taking over China. If you guys don't know the story of Genghis Khan, it's a great story, man. It's a rags to riches to absolute power corrupts absolutely type shit. I used to take history back in the day. So Genghis Khan, I know. Now Mao Zedong, you like, who the hell is this? 55 to 70 million people. And despite his numbers, these people having higher numbers, what separates them from Hitler is the impact that he had on people. You have to remember, Hitler, his whole idea was built on the Aryan nation, white people being the superior race, and Jewish people were lesser than. You need to be blonde hair and blue eyes. So basically, that was his philosophy. You're Jewish, you got to go. He was tombstoning people based off their nationality, where when you compare it to other guys, they was like, look, man, we just conquering land and shit. We conquering land, we're dictators, anyone who speaks against us die. Where his was more so targeted to a certain group of people. And what is most interesting, what's unfortunate, is his rhetoric, his hatred for Jewish people still lives on today. So this is what makes him, not that he killed the most people, because he didn't, but his rhetoric, his ideology lives on today. This guy was a complete monster. And Austin St. John wants to further promote his ideology that the entire world has been trying to erase. They've been trying to erase it since he died in 1945. And look at it. There's no one looking like, oh, we want to be like Leopold. That shit don't exist. There's no one like, oh, we want to be like Joseph Stalin. No one is trying to be the next Joseph Stalin. There's no one trying to be the next Genghis Khan. You're not taking over any land, anywhere, anytime soon. No one is trying to be Leopold. And look, guys, I mean, Mao Zedong. And most of his people, some people was killed by Mao just from starving. They were starving. You know, this was an internal civil war. But you see, Hitler, he wanted to take over the world. He wanted to rid the entire world of people who did not look like him. And that rhetoric, that horrible stance still lives on today. And your boy, your favorite Ranger, wants it to continue. So when you say, hey, I want to continue Hitler's legacy by putting quotes on a shirt, you are complicit with it. You can even say, some may argue that just the mere notion of wanting to put Hitler on a shirt means you agree with his philosophy. And, you know, I know Susan Matisse or Team Austin St. John said, you know, he's not like that. He doesn't agree with Hitler did, but he wants to monetize the hatred that he had for other people and try to paint him in a positive light. There's no way anyone in the world should be trying to paint one of the most prolific dictators as a positive influence. I don't care if you say, well, he motivated millions of people. Yeah, he motivated millions of people to hurt, destroy, delete a other group of people by the way that they look. His crimes were so bad that even people today who were affiliated with them are being hunted. They're war criminals. And what they do, they change their name, they're erasing their history, and every now and then you see some 80-year-old man getting arrested for war crimes that people have linked him back to Hitler's regime. Okay, so this whole I want to do this to promote dialogue is disingenuous, considering that he is banning and blocking anyone and any person who brings up the fact that this idiot wants to put Hitler quotes or one-liners on t-shirts. So this is why it's the deserved downfall, because he did it to himself. If you think about it and you go back to the history and you're like, well, what happened? If you go back to the PPP loan stuff, right? He took out this money. He filled out the paperwork. He made the wire transfers. This is all according to the government. He did this shit to himself. Oh, he hates the Green Ranger, but he wants to sell Green Ranger merch. He did it to himself. You know, he hates the Green Ranger so much. He doesn't believe COVID is real, but he wants to sell masks. He did it to himself. And all these articles that you see is literally the chickens coming home to roost. He's been a fraud and pretender for all these years. It looks to be about 30 years. And finally, his true character can no longer be swept under the rug. Who he is as a person is not just going to go away. It's here to stay. And these Hitler one-liner quotes will haunt him for his entire career. And the quote, the shirt, the idea that someone said, it took me back, right? I started doing a little digging. And I found this great clip that talk about people like Austin St. John, the peoples who want to quote Hitler. And you have to think about this, right? Here it go right here. This video that I'm about to play you explains everything perfectly.
Of a person, the ways of a person, the thoughts, the deeds, the actions, it's all based around his heart. For what is a man? A man is his heart. A lying, cheating heart means a lying, cheating man. A loving, merciful heart means a loving, merciful man. A living heart means a living man. A dead heart means a dead man. Regardless to man's title, regardless to man's wealth, rank, or position, if the heart is not great, then he cannot be great. But if the heart is great, that man remains great under all circumstances, rich or poor, large or small. So it is the heart that makes one large or small. The personality of a person.
So that's Muhammad Ali. So that it must be some evil or hatred in his heart for wanting to put Adolf Hitler one-liners on quotes. You know, maybe this rhetoric he just agrees with, permeates. Maybe he have family members. You know, this shit is taught and it's passed down from generation to generation. So with that being said, this has been the deserved downfall of your favorite Ranger.
Breathe when the air